before she knew it, there's many officers surrounding her. There's a nurse there, and she is manhandled physically, violently to the ground in an operation they call a bend-op. Hands put violently behind her back, handcuffed very, very tightly, and she's then literally physically handcuffed in this bend-op where you're bent over, dragged up 3 flights of stairs into this new wing where she's thrown into almost effectively solitary confinement.
I am disgusted to report today that Britain's political prisoner Lucy Connolly, the grieving mother locked up for 31 months for a singular X post later deleted on the day of the triggering Southport massacre, has been attacked behind bars by the prison staff who are meant to be protecting her. As you know, Outspoken has led the campaign against this very real miscarriage of justice, raising awareness about Britain's political prisoners and pushing back on that warped MSM narrative that Lucy was some sort of racist ne'er-do-well attempting to sow public discord. Indeed, the opposite is true. Lucy is a patriotic caregiver to young families of all nationalities who, like so many of us, opposes the mass, uncontrolled immigration and illegal invasion via the Channel, putting Brits at risk from scum like that guy, Axel Rudagabana. But the British deep state is furious that thanks to the campaign led here in the independent media and by the brilliant Alison Pearson in the Daily Telegraph, Lucy Connolly's case now shames Britain on a global stage. So they intend to not only continue the persecution of Lucy, but terrify her. I can reveal today that Lucy Connolly has been warned about staying silent upon her release, for example. And last Thursday, she was subjected to the most disgusting treatment behind bars at HMP Peterborough, where she was told unexpectedly that she would have to move to a different wing into a dirty cell covered in feces where someone had recently died. Now, this was a unit designated for the most violent prisoners in the jail. It is a unit where she would have been locked up, or she is locked up, for 23 hours a day. Now, Lucy, who is a gentle, a lovely soul, when she questioned this move, it was immediately interpreted as her refusing to go. And she was dealt with in an extremely forceful manner. Indeed, the attack by the prison authorities has left her covered in bruises. Now remember, this is a woman who was in jail not for any violent crime, but for posting one tweet that she deleted within hours. Now, I've held off reporting this news until today because I knew that Reform UK Deputy Leader Richard Tice had agreed to visit Lucy behind bars in order to survey her injuries for himself. And he can confirm the story. Having met with Lucy today, he has gone public to claim she has been manhandled without provocation, handcuffed, and stripped of privileges by prison authorities in a politically motivated attack designed to provoke a response from Connolly. Now, this is exactly what Tice has said this afternoon. Let me take you through it. 5 days after the incident, the bruises on her wrist are still significant, yellow. It was obviously horrible what she went through. On Thursday, she was manhandled, mistreated with no provocation. She was mistreated, no question about it. In the hours after her removal to the new wing, she was starved, not given lunch or dinner, no food. She was denied enhanced accommodation to which she was entitled, and they gave her, frankly, the nutter's wild wing, druggies, violence. Richard Tice goes on to say, you have to think it's politically motivated. I think the next few weeks before her release are going to be very challenging, worrying. I think it would suit the authorities to want to provoke a violent reaction from Lucy. I told Lucy to be very careful. This is sick, folks. This is the deep state persecution of a political prisoner behind bars. Now, good on Richard Tice for being the only MP who has agreed to see Lucy in the flesh. He also today, I can reveal, met the head of security at HMP Peterborough, who is now taking the complaint very seriously indeed. Can you believe that more than half of you are watching this video but not subscribed? So please do me a huge favour, click the subscribe button now, turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to all of our brand new Outspoken videos. Now, this is a highly sensitive moment for Slippery Starmer's corrupt government, given later this week Tice will introduce legislation nicknamed Lucy's Bill, which would create a backstop against overly harsh sentences for ordinary folk like Connolly. Lucy's husband, Raymond Connolly, the former Conservative councillor, has responded to this outrageous attack today in an exclusive statement to Outspoken. I want to tell you what Raymond has said. I can't tell you how relieved I am that Richard Tice MP has been to see Lucy. I was gutted when I saw her on Sunday. Her wrists were really bruised. Some very weird things have been happening to her inside prison. It's strange because Lucy just likes to get along with everyone and mother the young ones. My wife has had a 2-tier prison experience. Why has she not had release on temporary licence when others have? I don't know who is pulling the strings, but something funny is going on in relation to the way my wife is treated by the prison service. Can you imagine what it's like for me, as her husband, hearing what is happening to my wife and what she is having to deal with, and I can't do anything to protect her? I'm horrified by some of the things she has told me. I really worry about Lucy. I'm so thankful to Richard Tice for going to check on her safety as an MP, and I feel reassured that someone like him is looking out for her. It makes all the difference in the world to my family. Now, even though this isn't the main thing that Raymond cares about, I can also tell you that the persecution of Lucy's husband has been continuing by the authorities too, although I am very glad today to report some good news on that front. Raymond Connolly was recently told that he has no case to answer by West Northamptonshire Council in its spurious code of conduct complaint. They were investigating him simply because he spoke out in support of his wife after her appalling conviction and said that she wasn't racist. Shame on them. I also want to congratulate the former Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe, who is fully behind Lucy too, and in consultation with Raymond and the family has launched a petition which has remarkably garnered 164,000 signatures in just a matter of days. Now, Rupert Lowe says he's taken action because this is not the Britain that we know and love. And here in another Outspoken exclusive, the Great Yarmouth MP explains what his plan is now.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm absolutely delighted to say we've now breached 165,000 signatures on our Lucy Connolly petition. The overwhelming support we've received from particularly Great Yarmouth, from the East Coast in its entirety, sort of indicates that we've got the support of some very sound people on the eastern side of the country, and other parts of the country as well. So I think hopefully now we can work hard to stimulate a debate in Westminster Hall on the proportionality of this sentence for a misguided social media post, which I think legally it could be argued was not inciting violence, was simply commenting on the situation, which was highly charged at the time. Lucy's not the only person. We have the support of Lucy and Ray Connolly's family. Lucy's not the only person who's suffered from this. So hopefully with the support, the clear support we've got in the country, we can argue and debate about whether or not we have got a legal system which proportionately responds to social media posts when juxtaposed against violent criminal crime and other forms of physical violence against decent, law-abiding citizens. Thank you.
Now look, this is dark. What Starmer and his Attorney General best friend Richard Hermer are doing is so dark. There are many suspicions that this persecution of Lucy Connolly is coming from the top, coming directly from the AG, and it's dark. And trust me, Lucy Connolly represents only the tip of the iceberg. So what I just want to say is I think it's essential that we do not become desensitized to this inhumane cruelty, which is designed to do one thing and one thing only: terrify us all into permanent silence. Now, the Superstar panel. Brilliant to have Suzanne Evans and Alex Phillips here today. Alex, this is utterly horrifying. I found out about what I believe was a physical attack on Lucy last Thursday, but I thought it was important that we waited for Richard Tice to actually get into the prison. By the way, I'm not allowed to go. Not allowed to go to see Lucy as a journalist. That's something prison authorities have decided. But Richard Lowe, as a serving MP, is allowed in, and he's seen the bruises for himself today. And you heard from him there, Alex. He's clearly very concerned.
Yeah, as we should all be, because this is absolutely horrifying. There is absolutely no way under the sun that Lucy Connolly poses a threat to prison wardens or other inmates from what we know about her. In fact, the last thing I had heard from those who know Lucy was actually she was a very popular inmate inside, was seen as a bit of a mother figure by some of the other prisoners. And so I cannot imagine there being any excuse whatsoever that that woman has been manhandled to the point of injury. It's disgusting. It's appalling. It terrifies me that this is the country we now live in. And I'm really glad, Dan, actually, in your introduction, you pointed out the connection here to the Attorney General. Because it's only just occurred to me recently that it would have been Lord Hermot, one imagines, who presided over forcing all of these people to plead guilty and making sure they got really long sentences and were imprisoned. That man is a disgrace. Why someone who is an extreme leftist, a radical, that once worked with Sir Keir Starmer but otherwise has no political experience, is somehow now running our country, I don't know. Because when it comes to interventions of foreign affairs, when it comes to the judge judification of those trials post the Southport riots, it's him. Starmer seems to allow him to determine everything, and it's deeply alarming.
Suzanne Evans, I mean, it is deeply alarming. But what do you make of this treatment of Lucy?
I can't believe it. Well, I can believe it. I mean, prison's a terrible place to be. And I was deeply worried for Lucy's welfare from the other prisoners, actually, because I wouldn't want to be in prison. None of us would want to be in prison. We've all seen the documentaries and the dramas about how difficult it is and how dangerous some of the other prisoners can be. But in this case, it's even more horrifying because it seems to be the staff who have been said to attack Lucy. Now, I cannot see any reason for that, other than, as Alex said, and you said, it's coming from the top. Because why would a prison officer have any reason to attack who by all accounts is a model prisoner, a woman who is not violent and has not been violent, and as Alex said, should absolutely not be in prison for what she did. So how on earth has this been allowed to happen? And I'm really so pleased that Richard Tice has asked for a full inquiry into this. I was particularly pleased to see that he's clearly asking for body cam footage, for CCTV footage, and has made it very clear that if that has somehow gone missing, he's going to be asking some very serious questions of the prison authorities, as he should. So I think we should all see that body cam footage, to be honest. If model prisoners are being abused in prison, then we are at a very, very sorry pass indeed. And I do feel for Lucy's husband. What he's going through must be hell. It does seem to me that she has been the victim of not just an initial injustice by being sent to prison in the first place, but the way in which she is now being treated, her appeal denied, on my view, on spurious grounds, not being allowed day release to see her children. You know, it's not acceptable. And every day we are seeing people who have committed far more heinous crimes getting off, getting a light sentence, maybe just being even fined. And yet there is Lucy. They want her to rot in jail. I think this was an attempt to provoke her, to try and potentially keep her in prison longer. It's absolutely despicable. And when she gets out, I look forward to her telling the whole world her story and what she's had to put up with. And of course, that is what they do not want. And which is why, very, very sadly, as Richard Tice warned her, she does have to be very, very careful.
She does. She has to be so careful that they do not provoke her into something over the next couple of weeks. But I mean, that statement from Raymond Connolly, Alex, who I have been speaking to over the last few days and isn't in a great way, I just found it so heartbreaking, him saying hearing what is happening to my wife and what she's having to deal with, and I can't do anything to protect her. It must just be horrifying, especially given that she's now in this wing, Alex, with the murderers, with the crazies, with the drug dealers. It's just nuts.
I know. And do you know, I am so surprised and disappointed by the British people when it comes to this story, and how many people think that it's justified and fine that she's in prison. How the media, the legacy media, aren't outraged by this. The fact that people are sitting and watching a young woman, a mum who's been through tragic circumstances, be treated like this, be imprisoned when there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for her to be taken out of society. She poses no risk to anybody. And I'm horrified, actually, by that so many people out there just think this is normal, think this is fine, aren't questioning it, and how much the establishment will get away with unless people turn around and say this is absolutely unacceptable. It's horrifying. And the idea actually that a sort of order could have come from the top to do this is chilling.
But first, the great thing about having you here on Outspoken is that you're awake to the massive problems with the mainstream media and the disturbing reality that it's impossible to trust the fact-checkers who try and dictate the narrative. Now, given we love the news and want to be informed, but no longer believe so much of what the establishment gatekeepers tell us, it can leave us in quite a predicament, right? But I've got the solution. It's called Ground News, and it's the best way to stay informed and cut through media bias and manipulative narratives so you can get the facts for yourself. I have it on my phone and in my bookmarks online because it's become so essential to my daily life. You can see for yourself at ground.news/outspoken. I've got a huge discount, which I'm going to tell you about in one moment. But first, I actually want to show you what this incredible website and app is all about. So we're going to use a story of the incarceration of the UK's political prisoner, the grieving mother and housewife Lucy Connolly. You know how passionate I am about the story. She remains behind bars after one tweet had her appeal rejected and is now being treated appallingly in prison. You can see clearly in one place 37 sources covering the story. But what Ground News does is instantly show how it's being covered by the media, broken down by whether the institutions lean to the left or right. This is called the bias distribution chart. There it is. Then if you scroll down, you can see every headline about the story along with the political bias and ownership of the publication. Interestingly and promisingly in this case, 32% of the sources are independent, which means I'm going to trust those ones much more. Now, the left covered the story very predictably. Wales Online flagged her racial hatred. The Daily Mirror went full-on political propaganda with the headline, Tory councillor's wife jailed for tweeting set fires to hotel, loses appeal bid. But the coverage on the right-leaning outfit's far more accurate. Guido Fawkes tapped into the horror of Starmer backing the 31-month sentence for one tweet. The Daily Express saying her incarceration is a moral stain on British justice. And The Spectator saying simply she's in prison because of her politics. They also carried Alison Pearson in the Daily Telegraph speaking to Lucy from behind bars. Now, my favourite feature is the Ground News blind spot feed. That services upwards of 20 stories daily that receive the majority of coverage from one side of the political spectrum. So if you love the news like I do, the blind spot feed is the best way to get a balanced perspective on what's happening. Go to ground.news/outspoken or scan the QR code to subscribe today, and check this out. You will get 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use for unlimited access. So that's ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show. Breaking right now, Richard Tice has just spoken about his visit for the first time on GB News in the last couple of minutes. Let's listen to this and we'll react off the back.
HM Peterborough Prison, where I went to visit Lucy Connolly to talk to her primarily about the 10-minute rule bill I'm introducing into the House of Commons tomorrow, what I'm calling Lucy's Law. Before I just come on to that, I'd heard an anxious suggestion that she had had some serious mistreatment last week, so obviously wanted to talk that through with her. And first and foremost, actually, the prison was clean, tidy, well organised. I was, very well treated and respected by all of the staff. She spoke warmly of many of the staff. Of the officers doing a difficult job it's a very serious prison. There's a male prison and there's a female prison there, and all was going fine. She was expecting to be moved to what they call an enhanced wing because of very good behaviour. And then all of a sudden she was notified that actually she was going into a completely different wing with a very different type of inmate, where there are serious problems with regard to violence, with regard to drugs, where sadly 2 women have died in the last year or so. And she was horrified. And then before she knew it, when she said, why am I going there? That was registered as a complaint, apparently the first complaint that she had made. She's got an immaculate reputation in prison, I'm led to believe. And before she knew it, there's many officers surrounding her. There's a nurse there, and she is manhandled physically violently to the ground in an operation they call a bend-up. Hands put violently behind her back, handcuffed very, very tightly. And she is then literally physically handcuffed in this bend-up where you're bent over, dragged up 3 flights of stairs into this new wing where she's thrown into almost effectively solitary confinement and given no food for the rest of the day. And this is obviously horrifically concerning. 5 days on, I could see clear stress marks and bruises on her wrists from those handcuffs that the officers struggled to get off her hands because they were so tightly struck on. And that was the highest level of restraint and force that officers use. There's 2 lower levels. Lucy's, she has patently got a good track record in prison. This seems extraordinary maltreatment without any provocation whatsoever that I was absolutely horrified by. So she's lodged a complaint. I spoke to the head of security. All officers have body cam footage, which I would expect should have been triggered by that action. There's also CCTV footage, as you would expect in prisons. So I've got an assurance from the head of security. He will look at all of the footage and form a view in a transparent way. He's promised me. I trust all the...
Wow. Absolutely fascinating hearing that detail, isn't it, Suzanne Evans from Richard Tice?
Well, it's fascinating, but actually it's harrowing. It's absolutely harrowing. Here we have a woman, as you say, dragged up flights of stairs while handcuffed and bent over double by the sounds of things. I mean, I can't imagine just how monstrous you'd have to be, frankly, to do that to somebody. It is hard to imagine that prison officers did that of their own free will and volition. They're used to dealing with much, much more hardened criminals than Lucy Connolly. It does kind of suggest that they were under some kind of pressure to act and acting under some kind of order. I'm absolutely finding it hard to believe. I'm watching, Dan, I'm binge watching Gotham at the moment. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I haven't.
But the hero is a policeman called Jim Gordon, who is really, an upstanding policeman in the Wild West that is Gotham. And there's a point at which he is sent to jail on trumped up charges. And the order comes from the top that he's not to last the week. And this puts me in mind of that. I'm obviously not saying that anybody is suggesting that about Lucy Connolly, but you think that's fiction, and then you hear something like this and you think, what is going on? Why is a woman who is no danger to anyone in the prison being treated in this absolutely appalling and inhumane way? And yeah, again, thank you, Richard Tice. I'm sure you'll get to the bottom of this. We're all waiting with bated breath to see what your conclusions are and what the conclusions of the head of security are. And I trust you absolutely to make sure there's no fudge.
Yeah, what we don't trust is the mainstream media, by the way, because the only outlets that have picked up on the story, broken by myself and the Daily Telegraph this afternoon thus far, are GB News and the Daily Mail. Nothing from the BBC, nothing from Woke ITV, nothing from Sly News. There is more, though, from Richard Tice. Listen to this.
Political prisoner who was there at the behest, effectively, indirectly, of the Prime Minister. And I do worry now, because it's so inexplicable. If you can't understand something, you've got to think, well, what else is going on here? And I do genuinely worry, and I said to her, be very, very careful. Because if they're trying to provoke some form of reaction from Lucy so that they can say, oh, there you are, she's violent. She's got violent intentions. You can see this. This is what goes on. And I said to her, be very, very careful, check everything. The fear that they might try and plant some drugs on her to show that actually she's a bad person. Because clearly from the track record of her in prison, that's not the case. She, by all accounts, has been a model prisoner. So those are my genuine concerns.
I think, Alex Phillips, that is such good advice. And I'm very glad that we've now had Richard Tice see on the record that Lucy is a model prisoner. And if there's any more of this funny business that she was trying to be violent or that she was trying to use drugs or anything like that, I think we're going to know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's so alarming. I mean, to hear somebody, deputy leader of a political party in the United Kingdom suggest that one of our prisoners might be deliberately set up with drugs planted on them, being deliberately manhandled and provoked. I mean, what world do we live in? What has the UK become? It is so alarming. Like I said, I think we still live in this fiction that we're a high trust society, that these sorts of things don't happen in the United Kingdom, that there isn't sort of dirty politics and manipulation and political prisoners, but there is, and the general public need to wake up. Things have changed dramatically under this government, and you're right, the legacy media are never going to touch this because they all think it's fine. They think that she deserves to be in prison. They're so brainwashed. It's also normalized to them. They absolutely love it, and it is absolutely horrifying, because this sort of thing, this should be being discussed by the UN, for crying out loud. This is, where's the ECHR all of a sudden now when it comes to Lucy Letby? It just goes to show how the system is set up to fail those who trust it and protect those who abuse it.
Indeed. What do you make of this petition, Suzanne Evans, by Rupert Lowe? Let me just read out what he's had to say about this. Lucy Connolly is a mother. She has a 12-year-old daughter. She posted one stupid thing on social media and soon deleted it. She was sentenced to 31 months in prison, torn away from her family for one stupid social media post. She now sits behind bars. This is insane. Rapists and paedophiles get off with less. This is not the Britain I know and love. I've been pushing and pushing, trying everything possible as an MP. I even questioned Starmer on it in the Commons at PMQs. Quite frankly, his answer was total bullshit. I tabled a motion gaining support from Labour and Tory MPs, no process. We ran out of road in Westminster. So next is this petition, bringing it to the British people. Lucy and others like her should not be in prison for foolish things they posted on the internet. If we can get enough support, we can get a debate in Parliament that brings media attention and MPs. It can make a difference. I've been talking to Ray, Lucy's husband, and he and the family are fully supportive of the petition. What do you think, Suzanne Evans? Is there a law that should be made to say no law-abiding citizen should go to jail for anything they say on social media?
Well, I personally wouldn't go that far. We know that there have been social media accounts that have been used to actively incite terrorist activity. So no, I wouldn't go that far. And I think that's probably why, unfortunately, Richard Tice's 10-minute rule bill is not going to get anywhere. As for this petition, again, I'm not surprised even remotely that 164,000 people have signed it. And I'm sure there will be more before that debate is held, because people I speak to are incensed by this. So I'm not surprised about that at all. However, here's the reality. Alex said that things have changed under this government. They changed under the Conservatives too. This new thing about signing a petition meant that you could have a debate in Parliament. Sounded fantastic. The reality is it's a debate in a side chamber of Parliament, a Westminster Hall debate. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the main Parliament and legislation. It's very badly attended, usually, these Westminster debates. They're just talking shops. Very, very little happens at all, if ever. So again, it's this semblance of democracy. Everybody thinks they can sign a petition, and what a great free country we are. The truth, I'm afraid, is it's a little bit of a smokescreen. So, and as Alex said, the mainstream media don't want to talk about this at all. So even if there is a debate in Westminster Hall, however many MPs attend, even if ministers attend, unfortunately, it's not going to happen, because we don't really live in that good a democracy anymore.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.